Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio gets 22 years in prison, even though he wasn't even at January 6th. Here's a clip.
Around the same time that we were learning that several Antifa far-left extremists were being indicted on RICO charges, we also got this news. Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio, ex-Proud Boys leader, sentenced to 22 years for January 6th riot roll. And that roll was, he was texting people, cheering them on. That's it.
This is freaky, man.
What?
Look, if you want to argue someone incited someone else to violence, like, what do you get for that? A couple years? If that, depending on the seriousness or nature of the crime.
Charles Manson, for instance, got life for inciting those guys to go F it up.
I mean, telling people to go murder somebody.
He didn't say. He just said go F it up, and they took that to mean okay. So they went, and then they ended up killing these people, and they're like, nope, Manson incited it. Manson's going away.
I don't trust any of these charges. Enrique Tarrio was not there. This is insane. Here's the story. They say he's been sentenced to 22 years in prison for his role in January 6th. He was one of 6 Proud Boy leaders to be charged for conspiring to stop the certification of the 2020 election. Tarrio's originally scheduled hearing was postponed, blah, blah, blah. They wanted 33 years. He got 22. They highlight a few things. And also they gave a whole bunch of other dudes 15 to 20 years. Biggs got 17. Tarrio was convicted for obstructing an official proceeding, conspiracy to prevent an officer from discharging their duties, obstruction of law enforcement during a civil disorder, and destruction of government property of the value over $1,000. Tarrio wasn't at the actual Capitol riot because he'd been arrested days earlier and he'd been told to leave the city, so he did. Apparently, he went to D.C. instead. Prosecutors say from a hotel outside of D.C., Tarrio directed his Proud Boys to attack the Capitol without him. Tarrio's attorneys have said he wasn't in contact with any members of the organization during the riot, and pointed to Nordian and Biggs as being the orchestrators of the riot. Further, they said, participating in a plan for the Proud Boys to protest on January 6th is not the same as directing others on the ground to storm the Capitol by any means necessary. And that's the issue. Apparently, that's it. He wasn't there.
Crazy.
There was no actual plan among any of the Proud Boys to do anything. They were unarmed. Many of them just did dumb things. And if you riot, yeah, you riot, especially at the Capitol during the electoral vote count, I think you get some serious charges. But like what? A year?
Yeah.
16 months maybe for knocking down barricades or smashing windows. I do think it is fair to say it is personally offensive to smash the windows of our Capitol building. You know, man, I look to American history and all this stuff. I reject and despise the corruption.
Any of the
but
art.
It is amazing to go to D.C. and see all the art and all the history. And people smashing stuff and bashing windows and trying to break their way in. Really, really bad. I say criminal charges, and we'll be really harsh. Let's be really, really harsh. A rioter who does this should get 18 months.
Oh, they've already served that.
That's time
right?
served. Okay.
They've already been there.
Free to go.
It's
so
crazy.
you look at these guys who this guy burned down a police station in Minneapolis. He gets 4 years. You look at some of the what is it? The Molotov cocktail
seems like it's fair.
Lawyers. What do they get? A year?
I think
22 years. They're ending. They're effectively ending these dudes' lives.
Yeah, I mean that's something Tarrio said today when he spoke. He said, you know, he's 39. He said, please don't take my 40s from me. I would love to get married and have children. And you're
That's
going to.
awful.
He's not going to come out. He's like what, 60? It's sad. It's sad to see someone have to be the scapegoat. I mean that's what the U.S. government has done to him.
He's such a danger to
I'm gonna
society.
play the time travel game again because I love this game. Let's go back to 2017. And I want you all to imagine going to one of your friends and telling them, in 2023, 6 Proud Boys will receive multi-decade sentences in prison for what the government describes as an act of domestic terror to overthrow the seat of government. And they would laugh harder than anyone's ever laughed. And they'd say, you're a nut job. The guys singing in the bar and marching around in polo shirts and doing, what do they sing, like Aladdin or something? Proud of your boy or whatever
That's
it
their
was?
slogan.
Seriously? You're out of your mind. Now look where we are.
Well, they're go ahead.
There was one guy who didn't get charged who was in the Capitol that day, and that was Sergei Debidim. And he was actually a Ukrainian Azovite soldier who happened to find himself in the Capitol that day, and some photos were uncovered of him this week by Laura Loomer. And I find it crazy that you have Ukrainian spies that are in our Capitol infiltrating our seat of government, and they're not charged. They're allowed to come to the U.S. They're allowed to go protest in Orlando this week with all those guys. They're allowed to go back to Ukraine, but then we have, you know, American citizens that weren't even there, and they're getting 20-year sentences.
So this is interesting. Laura Loomer posted this. She says, I've exclusively confirmed the FBI identified Ukrainian operatives and neo-Nazis were at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th and even questioned J6ers about Ukrainian spies during interviews with the FBI. The New York Times, actually, no, I'm sorry, this is Daily Dot, not the New York Times, said why Ukraine is now being accused of secretly orchestrating the Capitol riot. Can I just, I want to explain to you what they do. It's one thing for Laura Loomer to be like, hey, look at this dude who is a Ukrainian spy who appears to have been at the Capitol. Isn't that something crazy? What do they say? Ukraine is now being accused of orchestrating the Capitol riot, which is a massive leap from what Laura Loomer said.
Terrible
This is how they try
reporting.
to debunk the narrative.
Yeah.
They create a conspiracy theory that no one brought up and then claim it's obviously insane, right? Yeah. Here's the tweet from Laura Loomer. She says, during the private interview with America Shaman, the FBI asked him how he knew a Ukrainian operative who took a photo with him the day of J6. Chansley didn't know the guy. And the FBI confirmed the Ukrainian Sergei, how do you pronounce his name? Debinin?
Something like that.
There's 3 Y's.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Was a Ukrainian spy who was affiliated with the Nazi Azov battalion. This means the U.S. Capitol was penetrated by Ukrainian spies. Well, I don't know about spies, but at least a spy. And the U.S. government and FBI have still not arrested these people or made the public aware of the foreign penetration. It's an act of war by Ukraine against the United States, and the U.S. government has sent $200 billion to Ukraine in the last 2 years. The CIA is funding a color revolution in the United States via Ukrainian Nazis and American Nazis who are being recruited by the CIA, et cetera, et cetera. I do think a lot of this is a bit of a stretch. I think there's a fair question of this does look like the same guy. Are we absolutely sure it is him?
Well, they said that the FBI and the CIA asked him about this guy being a Ukraine.
Right.
So I mean, make of the extrapolation what you will, but the fact that this guy was in our capital when all these other people are being charged with insurrection, what do you call that? That is at its core an act of war. If there was Chinese spies doing that, we know what we would call that. But because it's Ukraine and Ukraine is good, we have to just sit here and accept it.
Yeah, he just wandered in. He was a tourist. He couldn't have been there for any other reason. Nothing could be malicious.
Yeah, what about everyone else?
This is
You
the
could say the
question
same
about all of
thing.
January 6th, which is like, we know the FBI had informants from Proud Boys or Oath Keepers or different groups. We know that they had people on the ground that day. We know that the mayor of D.C. and Nancy Pelosi were offered to have additional security and support of the Capitol, and that was turned down. So if the government intelligence communities knew this could potentially happen and it was such a big deal, why didn't they stop it? Why did they let it happen? For me, that's just evidence that it wasn't. I mean, one of my favorite lines from the opening statements for the Proud Boys trial was one of their lawyers, can't remember who at this moment, said, she was reading these texts where these guys are saying, so what time should we meet up in the morning? Where are you going to be? Like they didn't have a plan. And she just said, this group couldn't organize a group order at McDonald's. Like they did not plan an insurrection. They did not try to overthrow the U.S. government.
It
but I
doesn't
think
matter, though.
ultimately, that's the narrative that, our intelligence community really needed to be the case. That's why they didn't intervene when theoretically they should have if they knew it was going to happen.
I do think things are going to get a lot crazier in 2024. I think it'll be more heavy-handed on the side of the left. Seeing these far leftists be criminally charged with domestic terror and RICO, good, interesting. They're criminals who stormed a government facility and firebombed buildings, houses, shot at cops. Yeah, they need to be locked up. The rioters in front of January 6th who were smashing things and trying to break their way in, yeah, they should be criminally charged too. But that's what, 16 months for a violent riot and attacking cops, not 20 years?
Yeah.
The heavy-handedness is fairly obvious. The fact that Enrique Tarrio, according to the defense, they said he wasn't even in contact with them that day. They gave him 22 years. You know what I'll tell you was really interesting about this is that apparently there was a statement released by Tarrio gave a statement to the judge saying he regretted his actions. Did you see this? Mm-hmm. And that he was remorseful and he shouldn't have done it.
He said that he's not a political zealot and he didn't even know that you could change the results of an election.
And that he shouldn't have compared people to founding fathers or anything like that. I think, and then the judge apparently said he doesn't see any reason why Enrique would be remorseful over his actions or actually believe it.
What?
Look, man, it's going to get crazier. In 2024, it will get crazier. We're already seeing a whole bunch of videos of people having their homes raided by feds. Now, in 2023, 2.5 years later, there's how many people were there at the Capitol? We know that people who wandered in clueless, a few hours after the start of everything, were criminally charged and sentenced to a year or more. We know that the people who were storming the front and actually engaged in violence have been criminally charged, but there are hundreds more, maybe even 1,000 more, who have not yet been charged, who were there, and we're starting to see these videos pop up. It seems that they waited until the start of the election cycle. Joe Biden just announced, I guess, what he's doing, like $25 million ad buy for the next campaign. Around the exact same time, the feds are starting to raid more people for January 6th. And don't you forget it. There were a lot of media personalities, social media figures who were cheering on what was going on outside of what Enrique Tarrio did. If they're claiming, I'll tell you this, you guys, if they're claiming Enrique Tarrio was organizing and inciting and encouraging it so that he gets 22 years, think about what's going to happen to the people who are on these alternative social media platforms with thousands of viewers, and they were saying more. Do you think that the feds are going to ignore that? No, I think next they're going to come for media personalities. We know that James O'Keefe is being investigated in New York.
I wonder if they'd even have to be media personalities. Could you imagine if you were just a user on there doing that, and now, bam, you just said one thing, and then we need to go further or something more, and now you're getting arrested? You weren't there. You didn't do anything. You're not a media personality. You got 2 likes on the post. This stuff's wild. Stuff is getting so wild.
Really related to January 6th, but I think a large component of what they're doing is going to be the people on social media encouraging it, calling for more and cheering people on. They're going to say we're part of a criminal conspiracy and they were inciting and they knew what they were doing, etc.
Yeah. I mean, this case is precedent setting. I mean, so Judge Kelly, who was overseeing this trial, said that he said this in all of the sentencings, but today he was specifically saying our country needs a peaceful transfer of power, and you broke our tradition of the peaceful transfer of power. And so he's basically saying these are the people that ruined democracy, which seems bizarre to me because it seems obvious that they did not actually have a plan to do anything. Yes, they were going to a rally. Yes, they were in D.C.
Yeah,
yes, things got out of hand.
either.
They might need to face some charges. But the idea that it was a conspiracy seems weak anyways. And in fact, we've had peaceful transfers of power since, right? We had midterms elections. Nobody rioted at the Capitol when Congress was sworn in for the newest term. Like, it seems actually fine. You want it to be that there is more tension. That's my editorial take on it, that there is a desire for there to be contention between different political factions.
I would say the same
only
thing.
solution
They
is
do it on
to lock
purpose.
some of you up.
Right. I mean,
Well, and they want people on the right to act crazy. I've said this in other videos. It's like the people on Twitter after Trump got indicted. They're like, "Oh, don't you want to get mad? Come on, go to the Capitol again," and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, that's crazy. So that's what they want. They want all this crazy stuff to happen. You know? So they're doing it on purpose. Lock them up. Hopefully someone on the right goes crazy. That's their plan. And then, someone goes crazy and then they can use it against them. That's what they want.
like
So it's
I've
all
been saying,
purposeful.
if your politicians can only campaign on vote for me and I will go after your enemies, then that
It's
just
terrible.
continues the escalation.
Which, by the way, is what I think
It's
Biden can
awful.
only campaign on, because we're about to have student loan debt repayments. He couldn't get those wiped away. We're about to have, inflation is not great. We have tons of millennials who are saying, I would love to buy a home and I cannot. Biden is not a healthy person. He is polls consistently show people think he is too old to run again. He is the oldest sitting president in our nation's history. I think he is actually very weak going into this campaign, and that's why magically this timing all lines up, where Trump's indictment, the Proud Boy results, all of this is happening at once.
I got my bribe from the Biden administration over the weekend. I got a letter that says they forgave $7,000 of student loan debt. I didn't ask. I didn't sign up for it. I didn't want it, and they did it anyway because it had been 21 years. The debt's older than 20 years, so they just wiped it off. It's just such a bribe. It's just disgusting.
I thought there was programs like that have existed for a while, for like a decade at least. There's been programs to help people who are lower income or whatever the circumstances may be to help with student loans. So that's like, I know that's been a big point of contention with people who are now finding fault with Biden's plan, because they're like, there's programs to help us. They already exist. We're already doing handouts.
He just wants the feather in his cap. He wants to say, I'm the president that did this.
Yeah. He wants the bribe.
Thanks for watching this clip from the
Very
Timcast
interesting stuff. Yeah, it's getting scary out there. Yeah, definitely is. This is just going crazy. They're getting so much time in jail for like such a small crime. It's like, yeah, if you want to give them a few years. Some of these I think might even be a little much, and Enrique Tarrio wouldn't even do. But 22 years, it's like he literally didn't even do anything. But if they were like, if they said we're giving them 3 years, I'd be like, oh, that's really messed up. He didn't even do anything. But they're giving him over 7 times that. Why would you feel remorseful about it? I mean, that is a good question. Why would he? He didn't do anything. But yeah, his lawyer probably told him to say that. And it's just like, that's insane, though. Yeah, he probably just doesn't want to be a part of politics or anything anymore. Enrique Tarrio, he's probably like, I'm out. I'm just out, not doing anything anymore. But the judge is still like 22 years. It's just like they're just trying to set an example. It's not about what Enrique did or didn't do. It's about them setting an example. Hey, you even get any political power, you get any influence on the right, we're going to come after you. You know, doing what I do, that's pretty scary, really. I'm not going to stop doing it, though, because I'm like, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm just commenting. And I wouldn't even say I'm necessarily on the right. You know, I lean right. Who doesn't lean right nowadays, right? So it's like, yeah, but it's crazy. But that's what they say. You become a really political icon of the right. Like the Proud Boys, we're going to lock you up even if you didn't do anything. Oath Keepers, we're going to lock you up even if you didn't even do anything. Stay away from all these events. I'll sit here and report. I let other people report, and I'll chill here and report from home. You know, because I'm a commentator. Let people on the ground that are like apolitical, mostly personality wise, on social. They can go get the footage and everything like that. If you're political and you lean to the right, yeah, be careful, because they're just gonna the guy from the Oath Keepers, he was on the Capitol grounds, but he didn't do anything. He just stayed. He was like on the very outside of the Capitol grounds. He didn't go into the Capitol or anything. 18 years. It's like, it's crazy. They don't want you to demonstrate, period. They don't want it. They're like, people on the left, they can go and do these, all this stuff where they've been going into state capitals to fight laws recently. I don't even think they get charged. I think the cops just, maybe they arrest them and then let them go, or just get them off the grounds. But what do they get? They're not getting 22 years for obstructing. I guess they would argue, oh, it's different. It's an election, not a law. But it's like, wow, you're going to get 22 years and then they get nothing. It's wild. And 22 years for the merits of what they did going into the Capitol. Luckily, no one destroyed art or anything, like I was saying, because that easily could have happened. But yeah, it's just, all this stuff is really crazy. And charge people for doing that stuff. But 22 years, people do way, way, way more heinous crimes than this, and they don't even get that much. It's wild. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe for daily news updates, smash that like button, share this video with your friends, and share your thoughts on the story in the comments below. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.